Okay, hello everyone, my name is Jana, and my proposition is that body cameras on police officers have positive effects for the police departments. So, my first secondary claim is that it increases safety for the police officers and everyone. So basically, there's a psychology behind when people are watching, everyone acts differently. So there was a study done where people they weren't told they were being watched or not. And they were shown erotic images and some not. And the people who were told that they were being watched, they skipped the pictures like really fast. And then the people who weren't being watched, like they were told they weren't being watched, they basically they stayed longer. And so you can kind of tell from that study that people, when they think they're not being watched, their behavior seems to be different. So basically, with that being said, there's another study that there was 19% decrease in vandalism, 29% decrease in minor assaults, 27% decrease in serious assaults, and 60% overall decline of crime. There was a study in Scotland, and that's where they found these results, and that was for an 8-month period from 2008 and 2009, and 18 cameras were studied during that time period. So basically, the fear of being caught on camera doing wrong things, like say police officers will be less inclined to be violent, and also the people who are being filmed they will less likely resist their authority. And the reason why this issue is controversial is because a lot of people have issues with their privacy, like they don't want to be filmed and all this and all that, and that's one of the rights. But also this is why I think that they are positive. My other secondary claim is that the body cams enhance public relationships with the police. As you guys know, recently, the public and the police officers don't really get along that well, and that's because videos have been released from citizens that have been reporting incidences and putting on social media. With these body cams, there is a study that it said that there is in Rialto, California, there's a study that had 92% fewer cases of complaints for the police officers from the public. That was a decrease. And that's because, when you're on camera, I said, the psychology is that there's less violent situations. Before the use of the body cameras, there's 61% of the complaints of the police officers from the public. So therefore you can kind of see how when you have these body cameras, it can basically improve the public and police officer relationship. Thirdly, body cameras, they clear up any misinformation. They can clarify information. So, like how I said earlier, citizens that they witness these incidents, they pull out their phones, they might not catch the whole story, they might, it really depends, and then they put it out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and a lot of the people who watch these videos will start thinking the police officer was way too harsh, or they shouldn't have resisted arrest. Yet these people who videotape only get half of the story. And so when a police officer has a body camera, they'll have it on for the whole entire time for that incident. So say the suspect complains I didn't resist arrest, and they're lying maybe, or if the police officer was I had to use force, and maybe they didn't have to, and the video will have that evidence, so it will clear up any misinformation. There was also a study where I believe that there's cases and they went to trial, but when they had body cameras, I think there was 39% more cases settled before it went to trial because they had these evidence, like the evidence of the video. So that means that it saved the Justice Department a lot of time, and it cleared up a lot of misinformation, and a lot of confusion. So this is why I think that body cameras have a very positive effect for police departments. Thank you.
All right, Jana, the proposition's clearly identified at the beginning of the speech, and when you finish, it's also your clear exit line, so that helps reinforce the point that you're trying to make here. There's no preview of what the supporting structure in the speech is going to be, so we're dependent on getting it as you go along, and I think that that's not something that helps very much. Hang on a second. When you get to the body of the speech, you do finally have a specific claim about body cams increasing safety. There's kind of an explanation. It goes two directions. One is the notion that people who are being observed are going to change their behaviors. And I guess the two groups that you're talking about being observed are both the police officers and potential suspects. The notion that there's been a decline in let's say misbehavior by police officers as a result of body cams. You do have one piece of statistical information that talks about that, but it wasn't clear whether it was because the police officers were better behaved or because that suddenly the people who were accusing them of misbehavior suddenly couldn't offer any proof that would show that there was a problem in the first place. So I'm not sure that your theory applies quite as much there as it did in some other situations and contexts. The notion that it enhances public relations in some way, that's really dependent upon how it is used to solve conflicts between the police and the public. And you do have some information that says there's been a 92% decrease in complaints about police officers, at least in Rialto. And that, again, that the question is that because police officers are now behaving better, or is it because there's now evidence to show that the police officers have always been behaving correctly? And I'm not sure that that shows that the relationships between the police and the public are going to be better, but it definitely does suggest that there's going to be less contentiousness about those kinds of complaints. The sources being cited are a little unclear. You mentioned study, but you don't tell us where that study came from and who's responsible for it. There are a couple of places where you refer to places where the study was done. For example, in Scotland, that's your observational study, and you mentioned 18 cameras, but it doesn't sound to me like they were body cameras. It sounded like they were closed circuit TV cameras, and they might have had an effect on all of the crimes that were going on that you've got listed there. If they were body cameras, then you should be able to identify that in the study itself, and we should get direct quotes on that. That was also a problem with your last reference. You mentioned a study, and then you were uncertain about what the percentage was and what it actually meant. That I'm sure that you read something. I'm sure that the number 39 came up somewhere, but the way it's presented is really ambiguous, and I think you need to be a little bit more careful about how you cite your information in the presentation. You do a pretty good job explaining ideas and concepts. Like I said, in the body of the speech, I think you're labeling things pretty clearly, and you do an okay job speaking to us. I like the exit line also. All right, thank you.